Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Pathological Lawyer Podcast, Episode 1. I'm David Graff. This is my 29th year as a practicing attorney, and I'm also a life and mindset coach who works with attorneys primarily, although not exclusively, on issues like burnout, happiness, and what do I want to do when I grow up. This isn't all about the law. In fact, it's not specifically about the law. It's more about mindset and mindfulness and some of the things that I've had to learn to survive over the last 30 years. However, the law is interesting to me, not only because I'm in it, but because it has this often oppressive weight to it, or a fog of obligation and duty and martyrdom associated with it. If you go to a bar association function, you'll often hear lawyers brag about how hard they work. And that's what I mean by martyrdom. Two of the things that were most helpful to me over the last 30 years were learning that, number one, I had very fixed beliefs on how the world operated and how I operated, and it turns out that they were not necessarily accurate. And while they kept me safe for a while, they prevented me from moving on. And the second was that feelings are the superpower of why we do things and why we don't do things. And because of my childhood particularly, I suppressed my feelings. I dismissed them as things for the weak and the frivolous. And I was really working way harder than I had to, with much, much greater internal conflict than was necessary or that was healthy. And so if you're an attorney or you're a professional who's wondering, geez, why is it so hard? Is this going to kill me? Is this going to take the life out of me? My immediate answer would be, only if you let it. When I was 7, my mother jumped off a bridge to her death. She killed herself. And my dad was a scientist. He grew up in the Depression of Southern Illinois during the Great Depression, came from a broken home, enlisted in the Navy and fought in Korea, and then used the GI Bill to get a PhD and to become, for lack of a better description, a rocket scientist. But he never gave up the intensity of coming from that place of stress and scarcity. And of course, he passed that on to my brother and I. My brother's 2 years older than me. And that was that work was hard. It was okay that it was hard because we could do hard things, but it was very important. If we worked hard, kept our head down, kept our mouth shut, we would be rewarded with a relatively safe life. Well, I believed that, and it was true. I graduated from law school in 95, passed the bar, couldn't find a job to save my life. And I had pretty good grades, but I moved across the country to pursue a passion for rock and ice climbing that I had at the time, and for about 12 years. And I had to bump my way along, and I finally got a couple of contract positions with different law firms doing different things. And I got an associate position at a law firm doing commercial real estate and transactional healthcare. And I worked a lot, and part of it was low intensity, high volume, and some of it was high intensity, high volume, but I worked consistently until I was made a partner at age 29. And when I was a partner, all of a sudden, all of the things that I thought would happen, the clouds would part and I would feel like I'd made it and I'd be happy. They didn't happen. And I didn't know that at the time. What I was doing was rearranging all of my life and all the situations in my life to make me feel a certain way. Number one, which was haphazard at best. Number two, which was completely random because I'd never defined what I wanted to feel. And so I was on this quest to feel a certain way. I didn't know what it was. And of course, I wouldn't know if I got there. And all of the things that I was doing because I thought I needed to do them were really a way of trying to feel that feeling. But I wasn't aware of that. The other thing that I learned as a kid was that feelings are indulgent for those who don't have a job, for those who have time on their hands, who need to find themselves. And so I dismissed them for most of my life. And I didn't realize until much later that a lot of the reasons I did things were to achieve those feelings or to avoid those feelings. Sometimes I didn't do things that I didn't feel like doing. And I would do them anyway, because one of the things that I like to take pride in, and all of the people that I've coached seem to suffer from or benefit from was that we can do hard things. The issue is not whether we can do hard things or not do hard things. We can do them. We can do them for a long period of time. Where it becomes problematic is you start to wonder, well, what else is there to life? What am I giving up to do this, to continue this lifestyle? And that's usually for me a sign of burnout for someone coming in to say, well, geez, now that I don't have the stress of survival, kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, now that I don't have that immediate stress of just having to survive and fight my way to a good situation professionally, now that I have it, now what? Now the pressure's off. And it's like having a huge deadline or a sports event or a race or the Super Bowl and getting through it and then feeling very empty because now you don't have that guidepost to guide your actions in your life. It's kind of like you're flying in fog and you're not sure which direction to go and it feels really empty. But the good news is that's a huge amount of freedom and emotional and cognitive bandwidth to try to figure out what it is that you want to do, who it is that you want to be, and what it is that you want to feel. So I'm going to give you some ideas on the things that have kept me from killing myself, and I don't say that jokingly, things that have kept me working for a long period of time, and some of the things that I've had to unlearn and I'm still unlearning because they're starting to or have hurt my career or stunted my growth or kept me from succeeding in a way that I wanted to succeed. For me, the most important belief that I have, and I was about to say it's a limiting belief, and it is a limiting belief at this point in my career. It's kind of a two-parter. One is that work is important, and the other that it has to feel hard. And that has been super helpful for me for about the first 25 years of my career because it allowed me to do things I didn't want to do. Now, how I did those things that I didn't want to do is another matter because I became addicted to urgency. But ultimately, when I thought work was important, that's where I needed to be, was at work. That's a problem because when I was not at work, I felt guilty. And when I was at work, I felt guilty that I wasn't home with my family or doing something that was more meaningful to me. So I never really let off the steam or let the foot off the accelerator. And the other one was that work has to feel hard. And that allowed me to do those hard things for many, many years. But it also did not allow me to enjoy the things that I love to do that don't feel hard. And I dismissed those projects, those passion projects, I called them, because they didn't feel hard enough. And the reality is I get to the point where I don't want to live like that anymore. I don't want to be feeling like every day I have to put on my armor and do battle with my calendar and with whoever else may be around me. I want to live with as little internal resistance as I can find or create in my life. So that's my goal and has been my goal for the last number of years is to keep moving down the road with one foot on the gas and the other foot not on the brake at the same time. That's what I define as having internal resistances, doing something where I'm trying to do it with all my might, but also doing it with something that is keeping me from proceeding ahead without that friction. And the phrase I like to think about is no residue. I want to live with no residue so that I'm free and easy in every moment, doing what I need to do. And when I'm not doing that, I don't have the shoulds or the guilt or the regrets that I should be doing something else. And I think if you can live that way every moment, moment to moment, doing precisely what you should be doing and not having any guilt that you should be doing something else, well, I think you become liberated. Stay tuned. I hope this helps.